our preparations ahead of tomorrow's primaries, presidential and parliamentary primaries. As you recall, a couple of months ago, we met you, and I addressed a press conference on behalf of the party to outline the calendar that the party had agreed upon at a national level. That was supposed to be the framework to guide our presidential and parliamentary primaries. So we gave you dates regarding nomination of, picking of nomination forms, vetting, appeal processes, all the way to the very day of the primaries. Glad to inform you that all those processes have happened. We went through the procedure where presidential and parliamentary candidates were able to pick their forms, went through the process of filling their forms, came through the process of vetting, after vetting, appeal, and then an appeal process finally opened the door for campaigning. And then we are happy to announce that tomorrow, May 13th, as we announced then in that press conference, tomorrow actually is going to be the day for the presidential and parliamentary primaries of the NDC. You will recall that this process actually started earlier, started with branch elections, continued through to constituency elections, to regional elections, and culminated in the National Congress that we had December last year. Now, so this final part completes the process of election as far as the NDC is concerned, in order to put us in a place to be ready for the battle ahead of us, not just as a party, but as a nation, come December 7, 2024. Now, so let me give you just a few of details regarding what is going to be happening tomorrow in 275 voting centers, 275 constituencies. So we are going to have the presidential and parliamentary primaries tomorrow. The presidential primaries are going to take place in 275 constituencies. There's only one constituency where there will be no presidential primaries. That's the Menchia South constituency. But other than Menchia South constituency, we are going to be having presidential primaries in 275 constituencies. The reason why it's 275 is because the parliamentary will be involving an additional constituency, the South constituency, as many of you know. So that's about the presidential primaries. Now, in terms of the parliamentary primaries, we are going to have 259 constituencies that are going to take part in the parliamentary primaries tomorrow. Now, we have 16 constituencies where voting will be done only for, there'll be no parliamentary primaries, but only presidential. So we are going to have, out of the 259 constituencies that are participating, in fact, the presidential primaries, as I said, is going to happen in 275. Parliamentary primary is going to happen in 259 constituencies. The voting, as we established earlier, is going to begin 7 a.m. and end at 4 p.m. in order to now pave way for the results to be collated and declared. We're having a total number of 356,624 voters going to be involved in the process. In total number of parliamentary aspirants are going to be 739 parliamentary aspirants. Out of them, 47 parliamentary aspirants are going unopposed. 47 parliamentary aspirants are going unopposed. So effectively, there's going to be a contest that's going to involve close to about 700 aspirants as far as the parliamentary is concerned. In terms of voting centers, we are going to have 420 voting centers nationwide. 420 voting centers across the country. The determination of the voting centers also had to be done according to population size in the constituencies. So we limited each voting center to a maximum of 1,200 delegates. So anything beyond that, then there will be more than one voting center. So we have a number of constituencies where we have more than one voting center. Otherwise, we have in all 420 voting centers across the country. In terms of the preparations for tomorrow, the major document that is going to be used to be able to go through this election, these primaries, both at the parliamentary and presidential, is the delegate list. The delegate list. That is a primary document that's going to be used tomorrow across all of these voting centers, the delegate list. Now, we also are requiring for every delegate that is going to cast their ballot tomorrow to mandatorily come with what you call the EC voter ID card. Every single one of them is required to appear with that EC voter ID card. If you do not have that voter ID card tomorrow, you will not be able to vote. If there is a difficulty relating to maybe having misplaced, there will be provisions done to be able to at least check the appropriate document to be sure what your exact voter ID is in order to enable you cast your vote. But that is mandatory. All delegates have been informed that they have to appear tomorrow with the voter ID card. Now, the issues that have lately occurred regarding photo album that had caused some amount of difficulties, the party has decided that there will be no issue of photo album across any center tomorrow. We want to stick with our principal, primary, fundamental, document that has to do with the delegate list, and that delegate list is available across all the voting centers and will be the principal means by which the elections will be conducted tomorrow. Now, the other thing also we want to let you appreciate is that the NDC, the Functional Executive Committee of the party, on behalf of the National Executive Committee of the party, has also passed a resolution. And that resolution is to the effect that if for any reason, the Electoral Commission is unable to be present tomorrow to supervise these elections, the Elections Directorate of the NDC will take full charge of that election tomorrow. So that is an important announcement that we want to get out there. That resolution has been passed by the NDC at the Functional Executive Committee level on behalf of the party, that if for any reason, the Electoral Commission is unable to be present tomorrow to conduct these primaries, we would ensure that the Election Directorate of the party across all levels will be in charge of making sure that these primaries are done. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you, in terms of a little breakdown, in terms of the number of aspirants. Of course, I mean, for the presidential, I need not say because it's already pretty much known. We have three aspirants, three candidates that are aspiring. Number one on the ballot, the former president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Number two on the ballot is former mayor, Kumasi Mayor, Mr. Kojo Bonsu. He's number two on the ballot. And number three on the ballot, former governor of the Central Bank, former Minister for Finance, Honorable Dr. Kobna Duffour, will be, these are the three presidential aspirants. They will be locking horns tomorrow in order for us to be able to come up with the winner, who will then become the flag bearer of the party come December 7, 2024. Now, in terms of the number of aspirants for the upcoming parliamentary primaries, we are looking at, in terms of regional breakdown, as I mentioned, the total number is 739. But in terms of the regional breakdown, we have in Upper East, we have 49 in all. 46 are going to taking part in the primaries tomorrow, 3 unopposed. In the Northern region, we have 57 in all. 53 are going to take part in the primaries tomorrow, 4 unopposed. In the Ashanti region, we have 107 in all. Out of the 107, 7 going unopposed. Therefore, we are having 100 aspirants who will be taking part in the parliamentary primaries in the Ashanti region. In the Greater Accra, 117 in all. 114 will be taking part in the primaries tomorrow, 3 unopposed. In the Volta region, 75 in all, 2 unopposed, and 73 will be taking part in the primaries tomorrow. In the OT region, 34 in all, no unopposed. In the Western North, 15 in all, 11 taking part in the primaries tomorrow, 4 going unopposed. In the Bono region, 20 in all, 16 taking part in the primaries, 4 unopposed. In the Northeast, 22 in all, no unopposed. So we are having 22 in Northeast taking part in the primaries tomorrow. In the Western region, 29 in all, 4 unopposed. Therefore, 25 will be taking part in the primaries tomorrow. In the Eastern region, 70 in all, 63 going for the primaries tomorrow. Therefore, we have 7 unopposed. In the Savannah region, 17 in all, 16 taking part in the primaries, 1 unopposed. In the Ahafo region, we have 7 in all, 6 taking part in the primaries, 1 unopposed. In the Upper West region, we have 30 in all 30 are taking part in the primaries tomorrow. In the Central region, we have 53 aspirants in all, 47 are taking part in the primaries tomorrow, 6 unopposed. And finally, in the Bono East region, we have 37 in all, 36 in the primaries tomorrow, and 1 going unopposed. So, ladies and gentlemen, this, in a nutshell, is simply a catalog of what it is that you should be expecting tomorrow. So what we've done is to simply walk through to give you the preparation that we've done so far and what it is looking in terms of tomorrow. I can assure you that all the logistical preparations have been done for the ballot materials to be able to reach all those voting centers in order for us to be able to begin the voting tomorrow on time. And so we are asking for God's blessings for all who are going to be traveling, all delegates from every nook and cranny, wherever they are. We ask for divine journey mercies for all of them, and we wish all of those people the best of luck. We'll let the chairman make a few comments, then we can take some of your questions.
Well, good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know whether I should be speaking Twi or English. Abusiafo, please.
All right, thank you very much. We are live on TV3. We are also live on City TV. And we'll plead with you. Chairman General is going to mess the languages. So please, let's bear with him. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, if you make me annoyed, I will speak Hausa. Well, this is the first time I'm addressing you on these election issues, not as a General Secretary, but as a National Chairman. Let me commend my successor for a good work done that has brought us up to this stage. He has explained virtually everything that you need to know about the elections, save that I am coming from another meeting, and it's a meeting that has to deal with some of the challenges I'm sure you are aware of that took us to the court for the past few days. Happily, you have already been informed that the matter that was sent to court by Dr. Duffour has been withdrawn. And following that, there have been meetings to engage to make sure that all outstanding issues and differences are resolved. So I am to report that even as we speak, there are processes in place that will ensure further engagement with our presidential candidates and some technical teams from our headquarters here to ensure that all other obstacles are cleared. And so we are good to go for the elections tomorrow. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Dr. Duffour for the, a good showmanship of statesmanship and the love for the party for withdrawing this case and resort to internal processes of the party to seek resolutions to problems that have emanated in this process. I would like to recommend that path to all party members who may feel aggrieved by anything in the party, that the best thing to do is to resort to internal party processes and to find solution. When that solution is not found, then you may go outside the party structures. So we commend the Duffour team for resorting to internal party processes to find solutions. We are also here as, in a sense, umpires for the whole process of selecting candidates for presidential and parliamentary. So myself and my General Secretary have striven very hard to ensure that we keep our balance and keep an unbiased posturing throughout this process. Because we know that in democracy and in elections like this, it doesn't matter who wins, but how that person wins also matters a lot. And that is why we have adopted that posturing. We also understand that democracy is also about securing the interests of minorities. In fact, the best democracies are the ones that ensures that minority interests are protected. So in every situation that we found ourselves as umpires, we strive to ensure that we balance the interests of minorities and dominant forces in an equitable manner so that the outcomes will be satisfactory to everybody. Having said that, I believe I have discharged in English what you need to know, save one thing. We have also passed a resolution. We held a Zoom meeting this afternoon of the Functional Executive Committee. And we've come to the conclusion that we believe that our internal elections remain our internal elections. And it is the responsibility of the National Democratic Congress to establish ways and means of selecting our candidates, which we will sponsor for elections. It remains our responsibility, and it cannot be taken over by anybody. We have sought to involve the Electoral Commission because we believe that it is much more credible to involve neutral parties in such issues. And so that is as far as it goes. So the resolution we pass is to the effect that at any point in time, when we get to a point where the work of the neutral party we have engaged to help us select our candidates becomes challenging or unavailable, we reserve the right to resort to our own means of selecting our candidates. Because this is a subject that has been discussed in the past at several meetings with the Electoral Commission. We have taken a position before that if the internal party primaries are public elections, then Electoral Commission are under obligation to conduct those elections for the party free of charge, without any charge to the political party. Because if it is a state institution that has a constitutionally imposed duty to perform as far as our party is concerned, then why should they be charging us? Because it subsists on the public purse. It has been an issue before, and there has been a declaration by Electoral Commission that the elections internally that helps us to select our candidates cannot be construed as part of their constitutional obligations. So if we want them to do it, we must pay for. So we have been paying for all those services, including the current one. And so if we come to a state where we realize that for one reason or the other, they are unable to discharge on the contract we have entered with them, then we are left to design our own means to go forward. Again, because Electoral Commission has in the past been bothered with court challenges from aggrieved parties arising out of our elections. When I say our elections, I mean the internal elections of both MPP and NDC. We have had at the point to be requested to issue indemnity to the Commission for the conduct of our elections. The terms of which state that they are only conducting the elections for us as a contract duty, as not part of the duties imposed on them by the Constitution. And so they cannot be subject to any legal suit coming out of any process towards selecting candidates for our parties. And the indemnity is still valid. So we are taking full responsibility for the outcomes of our elections. And we are sending notice to aggrieved parties or parties who may be aggrieved after the election, that if they want to proceed against the outcomes of the elections, they should look into our direction and proceed against us and not the Electoral Commission, because we have given them indemnity in the past, and the indemnity has not been revoked. So that is the reason why we have had to pass the resolution that in case at any point the Electoral Commission feels unable to proceed with the contract that we have signed with them, then we should proceed with our internal party structures to conduct the elections. That is it. Our preference is for them to discharge on the obligations they have undertaken to do. But if they fail, then we will resort to other means of getting our candidates elected tomorrow. And when I say tomorrow, tomorrow is 13th of May, 2023. When we had this legal challenge, we were informed by the commission that because of the legal challenge, they were unable to proceed. We accepted it and said that we are going to deal with all the legal challenges. We have since dealt with the legal challenges. And all the obligations and the timelines, the only thing that stood to be affected by this delay is the evacuation and transportation of electoral materials. We have met them after the court issues. And we have assured each other that wherever they run into difficulties about the transportation of electoral material, we are available to deploy our emergency response teams to help them to proceed to do that. So far, they have not given us cause to worry that they are unable to distribute the election material. And so we are looking forward to them to perform their obligations under the agreement we have entered with them. For the sake of emphasis, there are two separate elections that are going to take place, even though they are using the same delegate list. You have parliamentary elections and presidential elections. The presidential elections, as has been explained to you, are taking place in all constituencies except Manshia South. And there will be one center here at the headquarters where all our foreign delegates will cast their vote, plus members of the Council of Elders and other people who have special assignments here to cast their votes. We have made those arrangements. And so there will be, in effect, 276 polling, like constituencies. There are other constituencies that have challenges with transportation, road network, and other things. So we have had to ask them to do local arrangement. For instance, if you take a constituency like Evaluate Ajomoro Ujula, when you want to move from one end to the other, bringing delegates from one end to the other, you have to cross about 4 or 5 other constituencies before you get to the constituency center. So we found it cheaper to break the election into 3 centers so that every cluster will meet at some traditional headquarters and cast the ballot. And so in some of the constituencies, you will see that one happening. It is because of difficulties of transportation and moving people from one end to the other and so on. Then we have 47 candidates or aspirants who have already been declared candidates for our 2024 elections. Our rules stipulate that if at the close of vetting, one candidate emerges as qualified, then immediately after the vetting, that person is declared as elected. So we have 47 of such candidates who have already been elected. We have seen other places where people are contesting unopposed candidates by going to court to try to seek injunction to prevent the parliamentary election. There is not going to be any parliamentary elections in those constituencies because our candidates have already been elected by law. Then we have 16 constituencies that have been ring-fenced. We believe that certain constituencies need some special attention. And the party's preparation in those constituencies is not complete. So we have decided to put them on hold. After the main elections, we will approach each constituency by constituency and deal with the specific issues there to pave the way for the elections to take place. Our hope is that some few months after this main election, all those 16 constituencies will have parliamentary candidates. So the net effect is that tomorrow's election would have parliamentary elections taking place in 212 constituencies because 16 are ring-fenced and 47 we have candidates already. So the elections will not happen in these constituencies. And so we will be left with 212 where the elections will take place as far as parliamentary primaries is concerned. The presidential primaries, as I have been said, will take place in all but one constituency, that is Manchia South. Abusuafo, the entire year mu awie, say yene ye party for nkita hudie we ana Ghana for nkita hudie we. Nanke ahihye no se ebeba so eye nanu ukuada. Sa bre no na ebenya bre ne akyekye kwanye befa so ato aba no ne eho nsensem na se obia wo ha obia.
And you're with us. This is your election headquarters. This is the Joy News channel. You're still watching the Pulse on the Joy News channel as well. Don't forget that what you're just watching a few minutes ago and what you have on your screens now are live pictures from the NDC's national headquarters here in Accra, where, of course, the modalities ahead of the March anticipated presidential and parliamentary primaries is being spelled out by the national executives of the NDC. First, starting with the General Secretary of the party, Fifi Fiavikwete, who pointed out the number of areas where this election will be taking place. Then we had the national chairperson of the NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketiah, as you see in your shots there, indicate clearly what the position of the NDC is regarding a series of injunctions that have been filed against the party. Started with the former finance minister, Dr. Duffour, heading to court over the matter earlier this morning. We understand that he has pleaded with the court to withdraw the matter and to resort to internal party mechanisms. But Joy News is also learning of a fresh suit which the national chairperson of the party has been talking about. Let's get more on this from our court correspondent, Josefa Kable, who has details of this fresh details that we're getting on the challenge. We'll get details for you, but the chairperson of the party has been contesting that as well, indicating that the contract that the NDC has with the Electoral Commission is one of a contractual basis. So based on that, the party is determined, with or without the Electoral Commission, to proceed with tomorrow's exercise. A number of reactions greeting this. Joining me in this conversation is Dr. Asa Asante. He is a political scientist at the University of Ghana. He'll be helping us out with the science behind this. Kofi Kukupo is the head of research for the Duffour campaign team. He's in studio with us, so we'll be engaging him shortly. But let me start off with you, Dr. Asa Asante, if you're still with us. The modalities as we have it spelled out, and then the chairperson coming through to say that with or without the Electoral Commission, they'll go ahead with the exercise tomorrow. Aside the legalities, what would it mean to have the Electoral Commission not being a part or supervising the internal race of the NDC? Something we've not seen in a long while when it comes to the fourth democratic dispensation.
Yeah, good afternoon, Blessed, and then your viewers. I think it's an interesting development we are witnessing. Very, very interesting because more often than not, we tend to get the Electoral Commission supervising all internal processes in that is elections within political parties. Even though when you look at the law, it says that the primaries actually is not, as it were, the responsibility of the Electoral Commission to conduct. If the party so wishes, then they bring them in. But the one of the executives is the one the Electoral Commission is tasked to do. If you look at it from that point, then it tells you that, yes, whichever way the party can organize itself, either through Electoral Commission or outside the remit of the Electoral Commission, right? So that is what is playing out. But the inclusion of Electoral Commission into such an exercise brings in, one, a lot of credibility. That is not to say that if the party also organizes their own through using the legal processes and processes that are associated with free and fair election, it will not augur well for it. But Electoral Commission as an arbiter, a neutral body, when it comes into your election, it provides a certain advantage for you that there's a neutral body that organizes the election as opposed to the party which is conducting the election itself. So that is one advantage of it. And then the Electoral Commission also has a lot of capacity to undertake this work because that is the sole duty of the Electoral Commission, to organize election throughout the nook and cranny of this country. So it makes the work so easy for whoever is engaging the services of the Electoral Commission. And above all, when elections are conducted and you have a neutral arbiter, there is confidence, there is, credibility, it enhances transparency, and the rest of them. That is not to say that if Electoral Commission doesn't come in, giving what we know about the law, then all these things will not be, present. At the end of the day, elections, when you go through and it's free and fair and everybody is satisfied, that gives the election the aura that it deserves and make it.
And some concerns are already emerging on that score at the presidential level, where we've seen the former Finance Minister, Dr. Duffour, head to court. We'll talk about that shortly, but let's exhaust matters relating to the parliamentary level. At least 46 individuals going unopposed, 47 they are actually, and we have a number of them, about 16 constituencies, according to the chairperson, being ring-fenced. That's the word he uses. We're not sure if it's the case that the party is going to urge or impress some party members to stand out for these 16 individuals that the party is seeking to, well, we don't know if they're being protected at this point. What's the likely danger for the NDC if indeed some candidates are protected?
If you have that situation, what it means is that you create a certain pain within the party. And the pain is that, people join political parties to serve, and then one day they will also be served. That is, if also the nature, the ambition of becoming leaders one day, then they can have the opportunity to stand for election and be voted for. So if you begin to protect some people, then it means that you are giving some people safe passage into the parliamentary processes. And that sometimes brings to the fore a lot of pain, rancor, bickering within the party. And sometimes it works to undermine the fortunes of the party because those aggrieved people can resort to legal, issues. They take issues with the party and go to court to seek redress. And remember the court processes, you either win or lose. And then the pain of going through a lot of long processes and all that. Time is not on your side. And each of the processes has a cost on your the way you organize yourself. It also leads to a situation where people who are affected can team up against others to fight the party, and that type of fight is unnecessary. It is something that the party invites for itself, and in elections, since every vote counts, especially when you are dealing with a system that we have in Ghana, which is based on what the first past the post system. Whoever crosses the finish line by one vote moves from a candidate to become either a flag bearer or an MP. So you don't want to lose any single vote. Every vote is as important as many votes. So you want to safeguard that. And once you have that type of arrangement, you are likely to be confronted with that type of situation. And what is more is that it can lead to skirt and blouse type of voting, which over the years have not, bode well for political parties that are ready to wrestle power and then form the next government and the rest of them.
One of the biggest cases or the headache for the NDC has got to do with its presidential primaries. A lot of concerns being raised at that level. So I want us to start this way. Let's bring in Kofi Kukubo because he speaks, works with the Duffour campaign. So he's very much vexed with the matters that transpired today. Then, Doc, I'll take your thoughts on that. Kukubo, welcome to the Pulse. Should I say it's not been a good day for you? Is that the best description of how to put it?
No, it has been a good day. In a sense that we have tested the structures and the mechanisms of our great party, especially the leadership. And these will go down into history. And at any given time and in point, we must leave a legacy to make the future better. As I'm speaking to you now, we are just from about over 2-hour meeting with the chairman of the National Democratic Congress, Mr. Sedun Ketia. Then some members of Council of Elders. The meeting was chaired by Right Honorable former Speaker
Do Ajaho.
Mr. Todobi Kwachi was there. Kofi Ato was there. Now, as of yesterday, the chairman of the party with Honorable Betty Mould approached the candidate that the matter should be withdrawn, if possible, from court, that the party has a strong mechanism to resolve the issue amicably before elections are conducted. The primary purpose of Dr. Kwabena Duffour was not to hold the party to ransom, but to make sure that the primary document, which is the voters' register, is credible enough to ensure free and fair elections. Now, based on that, not to be seen as if he has any personal interest or desire to delay or destroy or to submit the process and put the party in a bad shape for 2024, he listened. As a very decent and wise person. Listen, because when you read our letters or the requests sent to the party and elections committee, all that we were hearing and we were asking for was an ear to hear the concerns so that we can collectively address the issue. We met with that group today in well, the location doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, certainly not. Not at this point.
Exactly. And the conclusion we arrived at was that, okay, they have agreed that there are fundamental errors with both the delegates list and the photo album.
They agreed with you.
They agreed.
I mean, and by extension, you're referring to the Council of
The
Elders.
council
for the
and the
NDC.
National Executive, the National Democratic Congress, represented by Mr. Sidun Nketia. They all agreed that the primary document, whether photo album or delegate list, is fraught with significant irregularities. So the conclusion of the matter was that, okay, they are ready to resolve it. So therefore, technical group will be put in place. All the three candidates will be represented together with that of the party's own technical group, so that we can again collectively assess and examine the voters register and come back to report to them how soon that register can be clean and be fit for purpose.
And you're referring to yesterday's meeting.
Today's meeting.
Today's
We
meeting.
just left that meeting. From that meeting, I
Okay.
to this place.
Okay. So this is the resolution that you
Yes.
have. And given the time frame you have between now and the start of the primaries, was that feasible to your side? Did you agree to this?
You see, there are two things that we considered. One, we want to test the trust of the people who sat there with us today. Because so that in future, when certain decisions are being taken, we have a reference point.
Right.
And we do not want to be so legalistic. So say, okay, we trust you. Though, based on these factors, in the sense that one, you, the Council of Elders, and the national executives, you have allowed constituency chairman or executive, regional executive to be used as campaign team for a particular candidate. You sat down and kept quiet. Now you are promising us your assurance. We can't be sure of that. The only assurance we can have is to give us credible voter register. And they agreed that yes, let the technical committee sit down, look into starting from today,
Right.
to determine how soon we can resolve that challenge before we go for the election.
And that's why I'm very curious. If the process you are talking about now, that's the cleaning of the voters register, is not concluded by the end of let's say, day today or the early part of tomorrow, will Dr. Kwabena Duffour still be in the race, or he may withdraw?
We need a race. We have not taken a decision to withdraw yet because we just came out from a long meeting. So we are in the race. We have not taken, if we've taken a decision to withdraw, we issue a press.
You're not out of the race?
If we are taking a decision to withdraw, we shall issue a press statement, official press statement. That has not been done yet. But let me just comment further that the statement made by the chairman of the National Democratic Congress, Mr. Sidun Nketia, does not reflect the agreement that was reached at the just ended meeting. And if what he's saying is true, and they are bent on going on to hold the elections tomorrow, that is a betrayal.
But will you pull out of the race? And that's the basis of my question.
And I'm saying we are still in the race. We have not taken any official position. When we take that position, there will be an official communication to all the media houses. As far as I'm concerned, we have not arrived at that decision.
Yeah, but you gave, a certain precondition agreed to by the Council of Elders for the National Democratic Congress. And that process is to have the voters register or the electoral list reworked before the start of elections. And that's the primary document on which you believe that you can secure
We all came
victory
to that agreement.
as the Duffour campaign. If that is not fulfilled, will Dr. Duffour remain in the race, or he may pull out?
We shall issue an official statement when that decision is arrived at.
I'm seeing some, of course, things around, and I'm sure that they've also come to your attention that Dr. Duffour is, as of now, contemplating that he may have to pull out of the race.
I've not discovered that yet. I am not aware of that decision.
When was the last time you engaged him?
We just came from a meeting. He was present at the meeting. I can mention the names of people from our side. Okay, the spokesperson was there. He himself led his team to that meeting. So it's when was the last time? I speak with him every single day. The last time we met was just a few minutes ago. Because I said from that meeting, I drove straight to your studio.
And when you were speaking, you started talking about some executives who have declared support already for one candidate. Obviously, we've seen some regional chairpersons declare support for John Dramani Mahama. What's the level of relationship now, speaking? I mean, the description, how will you describe it, between Dr. Duffour and John Dramani Mahama? When this whole issue about going to court happened, was there any sort of communication between the two?
The issue has never been about John Mahama, His Excellency, the former president. You see, I would like us to focus on the issue so that viewers and listeners can have clarity of what Dr. Kwabena Duffour is asking. We have never made mention of John Mahama. We have never asked any question on John Mahama. The focus of our demand is the voter register.
And you say that that register is being compromised partly because you have regional executives who've declared support for a candidate.
No.
You were just talking about that earlier. You were just talking about that some moments ago, sir.
Then you misunderstood.
Yes, but you said that here on the platform, that indeed you have some regional executives declaring support for a candidate.
Don't put words in my mouth. I told you that the basis upon which we requested a meeting, which was not being listened to, that compelled us to go to court to let them listen, is that after assessing the primary document, which is the voters register, one, it was incomplete because they gave us 220 photo albums. Once we have 275 constituencies which the elections are going to be conducted. So that's incomplete nature of the voter register. Number two, the voter, even with that one, when we assessed it, it was riddled with errors and so much irregularities, duplication of names, of ID cards, etc. Now, talking about the regional constituencies,
yes, which you were talking about, yes, yes.
I stated that at that meeting, the Council of Elders and the chairman of the National Democratic Congress were giving us assurance that irrespective of such irregularities, they can guarantee or assure us that there will not be any rigging or abuse of the process. Right. What we referred them to was that the only thing that we can trust, not their words, but rather the document. Why is it that we cannot trust their word? Because for several months, they stood aloof, while executives of the party were declaring support for a particular person.
And we all know that candidate. We know that candidate.
Declaring support for one particular person.
Right.
And the same people are being used as campaign members for that particular candidate.
Right.
And you're expecting the same people to be the referee. So therefore,
why are you shying away from mentioning the name? There's only one candidate that we've seen regional executives do that for.
Yes, so everybody.
Yeah, so it's about John Mahama, isn't it?
But I'm saying that the issue of the register is not about John Mahama. That's the principle that we said the register is riddled with irregularities. It has nothing to do with John Mahama. Absolutely nothing. So the only thing we can trust in going into that election, not the assurance of the secretary or the council of elders, but the credibility of the register. That is what our assurance is.
Okay, Kofi, just hold on for me briefly. Let me bring in Joseph Akable, his court correspondent. Dr. Hassan Santi is also with us. And Joe, we're hearing of a new suit that's been filed against the National Democratic Congress. What's the status now?
Withdrawn. In fact, the interesting thing is that it was filed at 10:20 a.m. This morning at the High Court at Adenta. It was filed by a member of the party, Edgar Asamoah Boateng, who is contesting in the Eastern region for the parliamentary slots, and he raised issues about the register, just like Dr. Duffour's team had also raised, and said that as far as he's concerned, he does not believe that there's a credible register for tomorrow's election, and so for which reason he also made an application for injunction. But just a couple of minutes ago, we received a document from his legal team, and this was filed at 2:40 p.m. And so this reads, notice of discontinuance pursuant to order 17 rule 21 of CI 47, and it reads, take notice that the plaintiff hearing has wholly discontinued the instant suit, including the application for interlocutory injunction filed on the 12th May 2023 against the defendants. And so this is a document that we received just a couple of minutes ago, that just at 2:40, so just less than 3 hours after he had filed, less than 6 hours after he had filed this particular action, he has proceeded to withdraw it against the party.
So technically speaking, this will not stand?
Yes.
And any explanations for his reason?
No, we do not have any explanation as to what may have motivated him to withdraw the case at this point in time. And what is even confusing is the fact that he just went to court just today and he has now withdrawn it. And so the questions remain, is he satisfied with the register? Has he been given any list of delegates, for which reason his concerns which he had expressed have been met, such that he now thinks that, I mean, resolving a matter in the court is no longer an issue. I mean, that is what still the questions that we still need answers to at this stage in time.
Do we know the background of this individual? Which constituency is he going in for, and what were the chances there for him?
I mean, in terms of his background, we do not know much about him by way of the individual and who he is, but what we know is from the documents that he had filed earlier, and in that particular document, he does indicate that he's a member of the National Democratic Congress and contesting the parliamentary primaries at the Buakwa North constituency. And so that is just the information that was provided on it by way of who he is in this particular scheme of affairs.
Joseph Kablet, thank you for joining us with the latest on that. The NDC has been spared at least another legal tussle there, which means that the exercise may come off tomorrow. Let me hear from you, Dr. Asante, since you've been listening to Kofi Kukubo point out the frustration and concerns of the Duffour campaign team. I was speaking to Professor Ali Duseidu some days, a couple of days ago, where he pointed out that it appears almost everything is skewed towards a certain candidate going into this race. Is that what you see as well?
I will look at it differently. Why am I saying so? Because in politics, a lot of things come to play when you are going to vote. People look at records, people look at performance, experience, and then popularity, and a host of them. And let us remember that people don't just cast their ballots. They look for people who really will bring them the smiles on their faces when they give them their mandate. So when they weigh all candidates, they are able to know that this candidate is the material worth considering.
Yeah, but for instance, you heard Kofi talk about the fact that if you look at the NDC now, and we were there to cover that story, when the chairperson of the OT region proclaimed that regional executives, and these are regional chairpersons of the NDC, are behind the former president. So when you have that happening, and these are the same individuals that will be handling, for instance, the party albums and the electoral roll, certainly there should be cause for worry, isn't it?
Yes, I have spoken about an aspect. There is the other bit that the institutions within the party. And when I say institution, I'm talking about the rules, the regulations, the norms, and all that. What is the state of affair in there? Who sanctions who when you crosses the line? If you don't have a sanctioning regime, then I'm afraid institutions are broken down. Is that the situation that we are seeing? Because we have heard before the primaries, right, that if anybody makes certain statements and it doesn't reflect the rules of the game, that individuals will not be spared. if there is anybody who has violated any rule, why can't he be taken up, right? If you see a contrary to this situation, then I'm afraid institutions are broken down. But is that the case? So these are the things that you need to look at for whether institutions do work. Are people allowed to make pronunciation or support people openly when they are delegates and all that? And if the rules say no, and they do, have they been given any sanction and all that? These are lingering questions that need answers. If you are not able to do that, obviously, then the scale will weigh, it will tilt towards somebody in favor of that individual against the others. But these are some of the things that the party must look at critically. If you look at Dr. Duffour and what he asked for me as a student of politics, it's nothing but we want to ensure that there is equal playing field for everybody. So if you have any concerns and he doesn't, approach it violently and he use the legal means, that is the basis of democracy. It is anchored on rule of law, that nobody is above the law and that the right rules and regulations are adhered to. And that if he is not able to find that within the party, he goes to seek redress in a court.
And what's also your take on how the party is handling this gentleman who's known to be a bankroller for the party? He's financially supported the NDC over the years. They may certainly need him even after the primaries, isn't it?
Yes. If you look at it from the point of view of democracy, Dr. Duffour was demanding his right, what is expected to be given to him and the rest of them. But tactically, political tactics, they got it wrong. Some of these things, yes, you have a fine case. You are demanding this. It's not given to you. You go to court. You seek the redress. Fine. But the cost is that the nook and cranny of the country, the rank and file within all these places of this country, would they understand your position? And how is it going to translate in voting? That is another thing. If they misunderstand you, or if they don't get your message right, they are going to misconstrue your action to mean that you have really worked against the party. So there is a political cost to these things. When you want to take that decision, you need to balance them very well. And I think that that we didn't see much of calculation in there. Yes.
And I see Kubo reacting to that. You want to make an
let me conclude.
Okay, just finish up on that point so he can come through on that.
If I have already said that his right to go to court and all that were within, the law. And the thing he was demanding, yes, we are using electoral roll, and I have problems with that, and I'm going to court. Fine. But the other side is that there are people, irrespective of your legal rights, that to go to court, seek redress and all that, they are going to take issues with you. How do you address this? So some of these things, it's a difficult situation, a real dilemma. But how do you balance it? Talk to the party, get them understand the issues and the rest of them. If you look at Mr. Kukubo and what he said, that at the end of the day, when they went to court to withdraw the issue, they decided that, yes, let's go. They sat down, they had a meeting, and then what the meeting ended up with that, yes, go and ensure that you do the right thing and all that. They want to trust them. I believe that situation, that decision should have been taken, considered first and foremost to look at it. If it fails, then you see the other option. And that is not to say they were wrong. No.
Right.
But the political cost is that as to whether the rank and file, they will understand all these things we are talking about. And then they will believe you that you are a through and through member of the party. You are not into sabotage the party and the rest of them. It's another question that is $1 million question that we need to answer. So that is the difficulty. I appreciate the difficulty they find themselves, but the cost, there's a real cost associated with it that you can rule that out.
Oh, okay. And I'll take the comment of Mr. Kubo briefly because we understand that there's a lot happening at the Electoral Commission headquarters. We'll cross over there shortly. But he's making the point that technically you did not get this right and that you may pay the political price for it?
No, I think we would rather gain from this situation.
Really?
Yes. You see, people always assume that politics is always about having a large mass following you. No. We have 2024 elections to go. All this process we were asking for is to establish credibility in NDC, to gain confidence from the floating voters that are critical to giving victory to any political party in this country. Now, if the floating voters, who are made largely of the middle class, which NDC for several years, we are trying hard to make sure that we rope the middle class to our party, they are observing this process. They would like to trust a party that can adhere to its own rules,
right,
so that when they win political power, they can trust them in.
And that's why you took that step, I believe.
That is why we are saying, look, let's gain confidence from the floating voters, but by ensuring from now, you see, we are not saying, oh, this thing we are going to do is going to inure to our benefit. We are saying, create a fair playing field. Okay,
just hold on for me. Let's get more from the Electoral Commission headquarters. There you see Francis Xavier Sosu, a known figure within the NDC MP. He's been briefing the press on some happenings. Let's get more.
He was a parliamentary candidate, had also filed a new writ, an injunction, and had same serve on the EC. So we knew that with that writ, once it's been filed and served on the EC, most likely the EC may want to pull out again. And so work had been done, and as we speak now, that writ has also been withdrawn, and then the injunction withdrawn. And I led the bailiffs to the headquarters here to have it served on the Electoral Commissioner. And so,
can you stress on that for us? You are telling us that Mr. Boateng's writ has been withdrawn?
Yes. In fact, it has been withdrawn. I mean, together with the injunction, it has also been withdrawn. And I can confirm that it was filed in Adenta High Court. The withdrawal was filed this afternoon. And I came here with the bailiffs, the court bailiffs, they are still around. I came with them here to have it served on the EC. So technically, there is nothing preventing the Electoral Commissioner from going ahead to supervise the election tomorrow. And as you can see, our party leadership, led by the party general secretary, is currently in a crunch meeting with the EC to finalize arrangements for the election to come off tomorrow.
What are the setbacks? Is the EC still insisting that it will not maybe supervise the election because of time constraint? What are the issues coming up again?
Well, I mean, nothing like that has come out as I know of. And I am aware that as we speak now, various materials are being dispatched to the regions to ensure that we can have a successful election tomorrow. So as we speak now, I don't see any other challenge for the EC. But of course, whatever the issues may be, as you can see, a meeting is currently ongoing with the General Secretary and our Director of Elections. Whatever the issues may be, I'm sure those final matters will be ironed out. But nothing is preventing us from carrying out the elections tomorrow.
So does it suggest that with or without the EC, the elections will come on?
Well, I won't say with or without the EC. The EC has a constitutional duty to supervise all public elections. So long as there is no restraint or nothing is preventing the EC from doing that, I don't foresee anything making it impossible for the EC to do that work tomorrow.
Well, just some 30 minutes ago, your General Secretary and then the National Chairman, Johnson Asedin Ketue, made it known that even if the EC doesn't come to supervise the elections, the party has passed the resolution, that the functional executive committee of the party has passed the resolution that the election directorate of the party will take charge. Are you aware of that?
Well, I mean, that is news to me, and I will not be surprised about that. But I am saying that as we speak now, there is nothing preventing the Electoral Commission from carrying out its constitutional duty tomorrow. Now, remember that the NDC is not just any ordinary party. The NDC is the largest opposition party in Ghana. As we speak today, when you go to the Parliament of Ghana, the NDC as a political party has ties. I mean, we have equal numbers in terms of strength it is the NDC that has produced a Speaker of Parliament that is presiding over the current Parliament of Republic of Ghana. So the NDC as a political party cannot be toyed about. We can understand the fact that once there is a court matter, the EC could make an excuse that we cannot come. But to the extent that there is nothing preventing the Electoral Commissioner from supervising the election tomorrow, I don't see why the Electoral Commissioner cannot do that, because the date for the election was not set just yesterday. So it has always been known. The EC, do not supervise this election for free. I am aware that the NDC has discharged its financial obligation to the Electoral Commission. And all printing materials are in the custody of the Electoral Commission. So please, I sincerely believe that nothing whatsoever prevents the Electoral Commissioner from conducting the election tomorrow. In fact, if the EC unilaterally decides not to do that, the EC will be violating its obligation under the Constitution towards the good people of Ghana, not the NDC.
All right, so, lawyer, may I know, are you suspecting that perhaps there are some invisible or some hidden hands, maybe your political enemies who want to thwart your efforts in tomorrow's elections?
I mean, how else would you say it? This one is what we call in law res ipsa liquitor. The matter speaks for itself. Obviously, there are people, both external and internal enemies, that are dragging us back. So I am confident that we should be fine.
So, Blessed, that is lawyer Francis Javier Sosu. Mr. Asedin Kete is here. Honorable, thank you for joining us on Joy News. Yes. What is happening?
Nothing is happening. We are on course. We just came to talk to the Electoral Commission. So they are evacuating the materials. So
the Electoral Commission has agreed with you that they will supervise the elections?
Oh, yes, because the only reason why they were talking about not supervising the election was the court challenges, which has been cleared, so there is no roadblock. So the election is coming on. That is not our responsibility. They have undertaken under contract to evacuate them and distribute them. So that is what they have to discharge on in the contract, and we have paid them.
General,
so that's not our problem. Do you think that is not my problem. The problem is with Electoral. EC has no complaint to us about anything, so you cannot be representing EC.
So your conviction is that the EC...
The election will come on. It will start 7 a.m. tomorrow in all our centers and close at 4.
So, Blessed, you heard the national chairman of the NDC, Johnson Asedin Ketia, confirming to us that the EC, after a brief meeting with them, is expected to dispatch their materials for tomorrow's elections. Earlier, you heard Mr. Francis Javier Sosu also saying that the writ filed by Mr. Asamoah Boateng has been withdrawn, or they have trashed out that issue, and as it stands now, there is no hindrance to tomorrow's election. So that is the meeting that has just ended at the EC head office here in Accra.
Samuel Mbura joining us with the latest from the headquarters of the Electoral Commission. It's now confirmed, and so Kofi Kukubo, the ball is in your court. Are you confident of a victory tomorrow?
We are going to an election, so we'll see the outcome.
But you're in to win, correct?
Everybody is in to win. It's a contest, so we'll see the outcome.
Let's talk about the issue that Dr. Sasanti was raising earlier about the likely political cost, the fact that when you went to court, you got some level of disaffection for Dr. Duffour and those who may be convinced at the time to vote for him. Do you feel that could play out and that may affect your chances going into the elections?
Because I am in charge of research of Dr. Duffour's campaign. It is rather to the contrary. Okay. You see, what took place over these few days has invoked a lot of questions from the grassroots. Because we have had a lot of calls and we checked it. People have said, look, it is true. Even in their own constituencies, they have never cited the voter register or the delegate list or whatever document they're going to use to elect. Most of the delegates are not even sure whether they will find their names in the register tomorrow. So what we went to, rather raise consciousness across board and among the grassroots. You may be tempted to believe that we rather incur maybe discontent from the grassroots by only observing the social media. The social media is always there with certain program people. Pardon me, I want to borrow an Ama's word, who are keyboard warriors, with the intention that anything that happens, they skew it for their own parochial. But when you go to the ground, people are saying, yes, what we are demanding, even just across the country. I saw one particular station, it just went out to ask the ordinary people on the street that with what Dr. Duffour is requesting for, what is their point? Almost all of them, let's say 100% of those who were interviewed, agree that yes, indeed, what Dr. Duffour was requesting was legitimate or is legitimate. So the NDC rather should listen to Dr. Duffour. I don't think he has done that research. We did that because everything we're doing. But we had series of calls from stakeholders across the country that they trust that whatever request we are putting in, the National Executive, together with the Council of Elders, can postpone, even if just for 1 week, so that we can sit down and just make sure that the voter register is fit for purpose.
Are you suggesting then that even the timeline you've agreed to now will not be enough to eliminate all the concerns you've raised?
I'm not the technical person. We may go in there tonight.
Okay.
And let's say, so all that we have to do is to quickly print out.
Right.
By the timeline we know, it's not sufficient. And we made them aware. You see, National Democratic Congress is building legacy that may not endure to the floating voters. You see, a political party that wants to win elections must be seen to be transparent even within their own internal affairs, because that is the character you will take to govern. So the process that we are undertaking, it's not, that's what I want to emphasize, it has nothing to do with any of the candidates. It has nothing to do with John Mahama. It has nothing to do with Kojo Bones. The process we're even undergoing through, undertaking, was to guarantee fair register for everybody, transparency for everybody. Maybe by virtue of that, your mama may even benefit more, Kojo Boso may benefit more, or the Duffour may benefit more.
Right.
That is the focus. They refuse to adhere to that process. Now, when you go for general elections, can NDC have that credibility to question anything about voter register? And Ghanaians will listen. You see, so when we are building a system, we must know that the system is not going to be confined to our own domain, because you need external parties to support you to gain the bigger picture. So if they thought they were damaging Dr. Duffour, no, not at all.
He's not perturbed?
We are not perturbed. He's not perturbed. He's a strong personality. He's a very soft-spoken, deep with wisdom and knowledge, with so much maturity and experiential knowledge. He's not perturbed. He has seen worse than this. And if you watch his campaign, his focus has always been to make the NDC stronger. And how do we make the NDC stronger? By making sure that the systems and the structures put in place are credible. So that any child, even living in a remote village, who believe in the ideals of NDC, and he's given that God-given talent to assume leadership, the system can be designed in a way that such natural-born leaders can also have access to lead. It is only when a political party is able to identify and the system promotes such people to leadership that the country gains more. Because whether we like it or not, is a political system, party system that we have established that will generate or churn out political leaders for this country. So therefore, it is imperative that in doing so, we make sure that we design a political structure and system robust enough not to deny the rightful people to assume leadership.
If you're making the point forcefully, then there was a lot at stake, or there is still a lot at stake for all the candidates, and not just Dr. Duffour himself. Why didn't you attempt building an alliance or a coalition on this matter where you have John Mahama's camp and Kojo Bonsu agree with you and see reason with you that indeed let's hold on the exercise. Let's carry out the party role audit, and that will ensure free and fair elections. Did you extend that idea to, for instance, former President John Mahama?
Again, this is where you're losing the point. Kojo Bonsu.
Did you talk to Kojo Bonsu on this?
You're missing the point. So I cannot answer that. I have to answer the question properly.
But it's critical,
exactly.
Right?
It's critical. I agree with you. So let me answer it properly.
Okay.
The institution responsible for doing what you're asking for is the National Democratic Congress. Therefore, in our request, the first point is to arrange for a stakeholder meeting.
You requested for
we requested in that letter.
Okay.
To have a stakeholder meeting. Who are the stakeholders? His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, Kojo Bonsu, Dr. Duffour, the NDC, and even YC. Because the issue we are raising is a regulatory matter. It's not even a legal matter. So therefore, YC can come in as a stakeholder to advise on the regulatory matters covering the voter register.
That was not granted.
That was not granted.
Did you extend the idea to Kojo Bonsu? Did you extend the idea to John Mahama? That was where Kojo
Bonsu also came out to say that I supported the post, that the voter register must be, the voting day must be extended until the voter register is credible. But we cannot ask them, we cannot go to them and say, look, let's all listen, because we cannot assume responsibility for the two contests.
So you had no idea what the opinion of Kojo Bonsu was until he came out, and you did not attempt speaking to John Mahama to say we need to do this. You never did that. Dr. Kwabena Duffour never did.
That is a responsibility of the institution that has churned out the.
But this is one man who's seeking to lead the NDC, and you agree with me that he has significant influence over a number of individuals within the party. What's that hesitation? Why were you not able to speak to the likes of John Mahama and Kojo Bonsu for them to see reason with the points you're raising?
In politics, unfortunately, I think you have so much suspicion among the contestants. Okay, he may call John Mahama and say, look, you think you are smarter than me because you want to use me to win elections. So therefore, we can only resort to the independent body who is responsible for what we are requesting for. And that body is the National Democratic Congress. They are the ones organizing the elections. And we are saying that the elections that you're going to organize is fraught with irregularities. So therefore, call all of us so that the other stakeholders will not think that Dr. Kwabena Duffour is only seeking his selfish interest. So that the party call all the stakeholders. Again, let me remind you that we just came back from a meeting. The party led by the chairman, Asidun Ketia, together with the Council of Elders, they asked us that our technical team should go and meet with the NDC's technical team to resolve the irregularities with the register. And Dr. Kwabena Duffour said, no, make sure that you contact the technical persons of the other two candidates so that we can all holistically look at this. So therefore, we know that there is an institution that is responsible to making sure that all the stakeholders are brought to one table so that we can have a common agreement to pursue similar objective. What is a similar objective? To make sure that the NDC wins in 2024. But if the party is not seeing the bigger picture and deny this process, that will kneel to the integrity of National Democratic Congress. And they say, no, we are not going to do it. We will pursue what we are doing. But we shouldn't forget that your character at home will show outside. And that is where the people outside will determine how they will react to you, whether they will endorse you.
You're blackmailing your party.
I'm not blackmailing. Because these are the hard facts. You see, in political conversation, we must always be sincere and honest to the issue. Because we want to make sure, you see, what's the primary objective? Who wants to be in opposition? Because if you're in opposition, you can implement your fantastic ideas. We must be in power to make sure that we implement our ideas to progress the nation for the common benefit of all. And I think this is where the NDC is not really seeing the bigger vision. And we are disappointed.
You've carried out your own research because you're Director of Research for Dr. Kwabena Duffour. What are his chances, scientifically speaking,
very bright,
going into
very
tomorrow's
bright.
contest?
We know the regions that we are weak. We know the constituencies that we are weak. And we know the regions, if election be conducted tomorrow, we are going to win. And we know the regions that we are going to lose.
All things being equal?
All things because we know the regions and the constituencies that
you're winning tomorrow's contest?
I don't disclose that.
No, but you're leading the research. So if you're confident of your research, then tell us.
You asked for.
Are you winning the elections tomorrow?
For what are these chances? Are they bright? I'm saying they're very bright. Very bright. Very bright. Forget about the propaganda. Very bright.
Regardless of what's happening to the electoral rule?
Regardless, that is you're coming back to the fundamental issue now. Because the research was conducted on the people who are going to vote.
If we're to go by the people you used as the yardstick, as the genuine list of individuals that were going to participate in this, he would have won hands down. By which margin?
60 plus.
60%. You would have won the elections by over 60%.
60%. If we should go strictly and make sure the voter register is credible, people have been shocked in this country. People will have been shocked with this country. So we were not perturbed with the propaganda, which was being run by executives, constituency executives, and regional executives. We were not perturbed. That's why we went to the grassroots. The grassroots are desirous of change because they know what the floating voters are saying. The floating voters are looking for a new face. You can go out onto the street. The floating voters are tired of NPP administration. But again, they are requesting for a new face so that they can transpose that trust. We have carried a lot of research. We have done a lot of simulation. The floating voters are looking for a new face.
If it's not Dr. Kwabena Duffour, who else should it be? You have Kojo Bonsu, you have John Mahama.
It should be Dr. Kwabena Duffour, no one else. Because he has the experience, the track record to change this economy within 2 years. Bring it back to stability and plan for its progression. When you look at his record from 2009 to 2013 as a finance minister, his record is the highest ever recorded in the history of Ghana. From 1961 to 2023, the highest GDP ever recorded in Ghana is 14.5%. And it was under his regime as a finance minister.
Where John Mahama was serving as vice president of that government.
It was a presidential thing. So I'm saying that under his ministry. Because if John Mahama was serving as a vice president, which you want to allude some of the benefit to, when he assumed the presidency, why couldn't he maintain a 14.5%, but rather reduce 14.5% to 3.7% by 2016? That shows the pedigree of the people you are working with. And I'm saying that he has the credibility, he has the record. He can change this economy within 2 years. And 2024 election is an economy election. There's no other issues that confront this country apart from the economic challenges that we are having. And I'm saying that in NDC and even in MPP, the only person who is credible enough with the practical know-how to lead from the front, to change the economy of this country within 2 years, which he has done it before, is Dr. Kwabena Duffour. There's nobody else. He cannot be compared to anybody except he himself.
Let's subject us to, of course, some reactions. Dr. Sasanti, you're still with us. 60%, he says, of all NDC members now as we speak, especially the grassroots of the party, are yearning for Dr. Kwabena Duffour, except to say that the system is not favoring him. Hence, we're seeing what's happening now. Kindly unmute, sir, so we can hear you.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Right. I think I was listening to Mr. Kukubo, and I was wondering his research, the findings, that he's going to get over 60%.
Yeah,
There's no doubt.
He's certain about that. 60%, he says.
Yeah, that he is a spokesman for Dr. Duffour, and that he needs to be able to articulate his views in that way. But tell him without fear of contradiction that what he's saying is not the situation on the ground. We have also been on the ground, listening to people, and then the rest of them. But let's look at the issue. He kept on talking about integrity of the party, integrity of the party. My worry is that, is he saying that the NDC has never been a party with integrity when they have won election in 1992, 96, 2008, 2012? And are you saying that, is he saying that the party has never been with integrity, but yet they've won others? If you look at the last, election about the executive, they use this list. The party says that that's the list that they use to elect the party executives. And what has changed? And then listen to him. I would have loved him to stay on course, saying that, yes, this is what we believe in. We want to build a solid institution within the party. So we are not going to back off from the court. We are going to continue the case, let the court decide on the matter.
But I guess he's explained reasons why, of course, Dr. Duffour took that decision. The assurance now from the party is that the technical teams would have to work towards cleaning the register, at least so that it's ready by tomorrow.
Yeah, but when you see his comment, the later comment, he's overriding all that. That if the row is going to be clean and all that, if he believed that that would not work, he'd have stayed in court and maintained that position in court, and the court would have directed the party as to what to do. So I find it a bit difficult to get that aspect of his conversation.
Okay, so what are your own predictions then about the personalities involved and, their chances?
Yes, I know Dr. Duffour as being a distinguished public servant. Blessed, mind you, I have worked with Dr. Duffour for about 5 years.
Oh, really?
His paper, the Heritage newspaper, I was the editor, so I know him too close. All right, a distinguished person, former governor, former finance minister, and he had a lot of businesses. I tell you, when I was leaving his newspaper in 2006, he could count about 14 or 16 companies and all that. Great man. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But the context that he finds himself in is a little different in terms of its requirements. There's a context that you need records to be able to convince the rank and file within your party, all right? And this party, all those who are in there, first and foremost, they want somebody who will emerge winner, and that person will be able to take power from the NPP so that the NPP doesn't break the 8. That is the ultimate goal of the party. And if you look at it in terms of record, yes, Dr. Duffour's record is there. He has been all that I've mentioned. He kept also mentioning that, yes, he was the first Ghanaian finance minister who has improved the economy to that, level that he was talking about. But one thing Mr. Kukubo forgot about is that when we talk about policy, all these economic things that we do in the country is a public policy, is a government policy. And this is the idea, the dream of the president, that he triggers, and then it gets into the economic management team and being implemented by an implementing ministry called the Ministry of Finance, which Dr. Duffour was a minister there. So obviously, that idea, the person who dreamt that, the person who put resources and structures in place to let it work, he's entitled to that credit. Any other minister, I'm afraid, you are not working on your own. The ideas do not come from you. They come from the president. So that credit, yes, you may take some, but when presidents are involved and you have ministers, the ministers don't talk, because ministers, as it were put in political language, are errand boys of what? The president. They do the bidding of the president and all that. So that credit, yes, he has worked there, but he can take it. It belongs to Professor Mills. All right. When you see Mahama in there, then it's a different story. We are talking about a contest where you require to see what records, right? What is the record of John Mahama? Dr. Duffour has done so well, which I have recounted, but it cannot be matched with John Mahama, who has been the president of Ghana. His work is everywhere in this country, and nobody, the two who are contesting with him, cannot match him. In terms of popularity, the president, the former president, is more popular than all of them. Every home in this country, they know him. Remember that the system of government election that we are practicing now is first past the post system. Even one person can move you from a candidate to become what? A flag bearer. The president popularity counts a lot. We also want somebody who can also rub shoulders, whoever will be elected from the governing NPP party, all right, who can match him. I'm not sure anybody can match whoever will merge as a flag bearer from NPP than John Mahama. Another factor that it needs to be considered is your constituencies, right? And constituency here, I'm talking about your following within your own party and outside your party. You kept talking about what? The mass voters, the floating voters, and the rest of them. Yes, it's part of the equation. But the real equation is that you need to know each of the regions, the constituencies, your strengths, your weaknesses. How much vote can you command?
But he says they've done that. And if you are to go by that, Dr. Duffour
and I'm saying
actually
that
should be winning
if you
by
look at the
60%.
last performance of John Mahama in the last election, amazing performance, all right? And you're saying that, yes, you need a new face to replace him. And this will not make that a mistake. Otherwise, they are being naive. I must be blunt about that.
Are the grassroots of the NDC not tired of this same old face representing them in the
same old face,
election?
which everybody did not give John Mahama a dog chance in the last election? You saw his performance. Very amazing performance. So if you have a leader who have put up that splendid performance in the last election, going to contest again, you want to give it to somebody who doesn't have that type of record. I mean, let us remember we are not doing trial and error. It's not a laboratory with a beaker in our hand.
We need to go for the sake of time.
So looking at all these things, when you put together, you realize that in spite of Dr. Duffour's strength and all that he has achieved, I can say without fear of contradiction that the battle is too high for him for tomorrow.
All right.
I can say without fear of contradiction.
I respect his personal opinion. But all that he stated are not proved by facts. In 2012, when John Mahama contested the presidency for the first time, the presidential result was 50.7%. And when we do the basic mathematics with using 45% as a benchmark for the political parties, that means we have gained 5.7 floating voters. And NPP had 6.6%. Okay. No, 6.6%. Now, in 2016, when we do the basic mathematics, John Mahama had negative 0.49%. So our presidential result was 44.something%. It means that we lost all the floating voters. And some of the hardcore NDC members also didn't vote. So we dropped to 44.4%.
Okay.
And MPP gained, John Akufo-Addo gained 8.8%. I got in the point. In 2020, Akufo-Addo could not retain the 8.8%. It came down to 8.6 or 8.2. John Mahama had 2.2%.
Appreciation,
2.2. And when you combine the three cycle, you see that the former president has not retained the floating voters over the last 3 years. We lost election 2016 by 1 million votes, and he regained it by 500,000 votes. Is that appreciation?
But it's still progress, isn't it?
No,
he's appreciated, whichever way you look at it.
We lost.
Yes, and then you gain, and you continue to gain.
That means politics doesn't work like that. The fact that it's not...
you don't feel it will continue? No, it's not successive?
Politics doesn't... Yeah, correct. It's not successive. Politics doesn't work like that. Because in 2024, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo's face will not be on the ballot. It has changed the whole chemistry. Because the contest by then was on the popularity between John Mahama and Akufo-Addo. In 2024, should NDC elect John Mahama, the popularity contest will not be with Akufo-Addo, So Akufo-Addo rose and was declining. He has finished his 2 terms. So now, maybe MPP is going to bring another Yonke on the rise. It changes the whole chemistry. And MPP, well, the person who is coming, you see, when we understand the political psyche of Ghanaians, at the back of their minds, when they elect a president, they are not expecting that president to serve only 1 term. Because they know that in politics, no president can achieve enough within 1 term. So there's political psychology that the man assumes. So we check it from 1992. Rawlings had 2 terms. Kufuor had 2 terms.
But don't forget that John Mahama was paying for the sins of the party. The party had already done 4 years, and adding on his 4 years would have made that natural 8-year political cycle for the NDC.
You are talking about emotional.
This is not emotional. I'm also talking facts here.
I'm talking about constitutional.
I mean, no party has gone beyond the 8-year political cycle. John Mahama, for some experts, was paying the price of what the party had gained over the 4-year period.
I always say, no, it was on his record. You see, that is a political fallacy. It was on his record.
Right.
I keep on saying that 8 year can be broken. I've always stated this before, long before NPP started singing this. Because it's a political fallacy. You see, Ghanaians will never reject a political party that is churning out good policies for the rest for long.
Okay.
So these are basic facts. So I think when people bring in those signs without any concrete figures,
then you begin to challenge.
Yeah, the facts on the ground doesn't.
We need to go. Is Dr. Duffour open to becoming a vice presidential candidate for the NDC in the event that he doesn't win, and the next person who wins wants to make him a vice presidential candidate?
That is not my call to make.
Is he open to the idea?
It is his call. It's not my call.
Right.
So I cannot comment on that.
You want to say any final words to your supporters out there who may be watching us now?
Dr. Kobina Duffour's supporters. We shall take a definite decision on tomorrow's contest if it will come.
Really?
Yes. But already we are deploying our staff on the ground.
You're pulling out?
We had already started deploying our staff on the ground. So, because I'm in the studio.
But you're saying you will take your decision. That's what you're saying.
No, because to address the rumor. To address the rumor.
Yeah, the rumor, you've also seen that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a meeting going on. I'm in the studio here. So I have to go.
Anything can happen, I guess.
In life, anything happens. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm not aware that we are pulling out of tomorrow's contest.
Okay,
if it will come.
All the best. Thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. And of course, that's all we have for you here on the show. I'm blessed. We're going to log on to myjoyonline.com. But this is your election headquarters. We're starting off tonight with some discussions and analysis on the chances of all the candidates. This is where you want to be on the Joy News channel. We'll see you again. But next is Let's Talk Showbiz. Please stay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.